All right, welcome back, YouTubers and Craps Nation, and all of whoever ends up stumbling across this video. Uh, Part three of a series. Part one, we talked about getting OBS installed, going through some default settings, adding your camera source and audio source, and adding some filters to your audio to clean it up and help stabilize your volume. In part two, we got OBS logged into your Google account. We figured out how to make a copy of the KPI sheet, how to the basics of customizing it to suit your needs, and then how to add that KPI sheet into OBS, both for the display and also for doing your inputs. And the one thing I would really love to do, I didn't mention this before, I would love, instead of having this to be, spreadsheet style where you have to go into the cell and add, just type in the numbers. I would absolutely love it to create some kind of a touch screen type interface or something with just some buttons so that you can, if you're on a phone or a tablet, you can just tap it. But that's beyond my abilities at this time. So this works. This works very well. So today we're going to add the NDI whatnots. And to add NDI to OBS, so NDI is a network device interface. And basically what it does is it takes any video source, or in theory, any video source, and turns it into a camera type feed that other applications can use. And to get there, here's the download page for it. It's on GitHub. Don't expect you to remember it. The versions change. So we're just going to do a quick Google search. OBS NDI plugin download. 4 easy keywords. We know what we're doing. We're doing OBS. We need NDI, the plugin. We want to download it. And the very first link will take us to the OBS website, their resources section. And you can see here that various information about it. 491 is the latest release, but it was really only released for the Linux, for Debian and Ubuntu. The latest release for Windows is 490. And right here at the top, we go to the download link. And that takes us right back to where we started. And we just scroll down here, and there's all the files. The easiest way to do this is to grab the Windows installer. And I've actually already downloaded that, so we're just going to run that. So let's go to Downloads, OBS NDI, Windows Installer, and we'll run that. It's going to ask for permission. And here we're going to just hit Next. Now, one of the things that needs to happen, you also need the NDI runtime. When you do the installer for the plugin, it automatically will go ahead and download if you uncheck this, then that doesn't really work. But it will go ahead and download the runtime and install it during this process. It's pretty quick and easy. And you just next, agree, next, agree, whatever, install, and it will walk you through the whole process. I've already done this on my computer, so we are going to cancel that setup. Once that process is done, you may or may not need to reboot your computer. You will definitely need to have OBS closed while you're doing this. So at this point, we can check our sources. And now in the sources, we see we have NDI sources available. But before we can do that, and actually let's go ahead and do that, to watch this thing not work. We'll call it Skype. Name is already in use. Why? Oh, because it's there. Cancel. So let's go into the properties of Skype. And right here, you see we can't select a source name because the NDI plugin, while it's installed, it's not actively running. So you actually need to get into a Skype call in order to do this. So Take two. Let's try to get a Skype call going and see if we can make this happen. So I'm going to call myself here. Give me just a moment. And watch your volume. I might get some feedback for a moment. There we go. Let's go ahead and answer that with video. And that should do it. So you can, I don't know what you're looking at. You're looking at my pegboard with some tools, the bottom of my monitor, and that's okay. Now you see here in Skype, uh, NDI is running. So that's a good sign right there. And your callers will also see a warning saying that you are running a device that could broadcast or record. I wish I could figure out how to let other people dismiss that, but it is what it is. And actually, let me go ahead and set myself away. And no, let's not. We'll just suffer through the notifications. We're getting ready for live fantasy craps here in about 2 hours. So, all right, anyways, we can come in here, select our properties, and now we should be able to select a source. And right now I've got one person on the call, myself. Hello, me. Um, the audio source that you want to, or this, one of the things you want to do with Skype, because if you have multiple callers, if you're selected on a single source, only that source audio will come to you. Or actually, I take that back. You can only use one NDI source for your audio feed. NDI, I think it's a bug in Skype. It just puts everybody's audio down a single feed, and that's fine. You just have to be aware of it and how to get around it. So on our master layout, because we want audio everywhere we go, so on the master layout, we're just going to add the Skype active speaker, and the bandwidth we set audio only, and everything else will leave the same. Go ahead and add that, and now we should, hold on just a moment, I'm going to mute myself on one device and unmute myself on the other. We should see some audio. If you notice, when I muted myself on my headset and just got the audio off my phone through Skype, the audio came through the Skype audio channel. And if you remember, we talked about filters on audio. This applies to Skype as well. You might want to add a few filters, and you'll have to play with this kind of on the fly. Everybody's audio is going to be slightly different, so you have to find a balance that works for everyone. So audio video filters up here. We're going to add some noise suppression, and we are going to add gain just so that it's there. We're going to leave that gain at the default of 0 dB. Let's add the limiter, and we'll leave that at the default of -6 dB. And finally, we're going to add the compressor and leave that at those defaults as well. Now, I am going to switch audio again just to show you that. So if you noticed on the Skype audio, it was coming way up here in the red. It's way too loud. So hopefully this is going to even things out a little bit. So hang on just a moment. The Skype audio was, hitting up there pretty hard. I changed the limiter, I dropped it down. And again, once you have, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people on here with different microphones, different devices, different speech volume, etc., you might have to make some additional adjustments, but you can do that at any time from almost any scene that this audio is included on. All right, so we've got that. Now, we want to add some video. So let's go ahead and do that. And actually, before I do that, let me change something here. I'm going to mute that. That's better. Now I can't hear myself speaking. We should still have audio on the video. Yes, we do. Beautiful. Close that preview. All right. Now, let's add a Skype video. So we add a second NDI source. And let's call this NDI Troy, because this is going to be for me. And we'll add that. And everything else is fine. And there's my camera, except it's in portrait mode instead of landscape, and that's fine. Some people will just do it that way. Let me get this phone. Well, I don't know how I'm going to set this up here. Maybe that'll work. No, it won't. I don't want to be on the camera. You can look at my chips and part of my basement. So we just added that, but this also includes another audio source for NDI Troy. Now, we want to kill that. Again, the same audio is going to be coming in here from Skype, the Skype audio source and the NDI audio source for that. Every single time you add a new person to a separate source, the audio is the same and it will be echoed and amplified, and it can get really obnoxious. So we're going to kill that volume. We're going to mute it. Come in here. We're going to lock it. And we are going to hide it. Boom. We don't have to think about it anymore. It's out of our face. We don't have to do anything else. We will still have audio coming in on the Skype, on the active, the active speaker audio source, which is good. Then we also have that. So now I've got 0.7 out is the host. We can see that table, and we got Troy coming in as a guest, and we see that table. And wait a minute, how does George flip between these sources? Well, the really hard way to do this, you go ahead and do that, make that nice and big, and you can turn off that. And that is not really great. Let's move that under, turn that. And switching, turning sources on and off is one option. It is always an option, but it's not the best option. Your best option is to create multiple scenes. So this scene here, let's rename it, and we'll call it main layout. You can call it layout template, master layout, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to have components in there that we want in every single scene. Now, let's add another scene. And we'll do one for 0.7 out. We have no sources in there. What we want is the overhead camera for 0.7 out. So I am going to copy that. Go into ProCraps. We'll come in here. We'll paste a reference. Same camera. Now it's two sources, one on the main layout and one on PSO Craps. Wait a minute. Now we need to copy the KPI. And no, we don't want to copy the KPI sources. What we're going to actually do is remove the overhead cam from the main layout. Yes, we're going to remove it. It's still over here on this scene, but now this scene does not have anything else. It doesn't have the KPI. It doesn't have an audio source or anything. So what we're going to do here is add another source, and this time we're going to add a scene, and we're going to add the main layout. And boom, our audio sources came in, both my Bluetooth and Skype If there was an active speaker on Skype, we would see those audio levels. We also got the KPI in there, and that pops right up over everything else. Now, unfortunately, that also now includes the NDI video source that we brought in earlier. So if we go back here to my scene, you see, oh, there's the NDI, and I can't get rid of it from here. So let's add another scene, and let's call it shoot. For right now, we'll just call it shooter 2. And shooter 2, we are going to bring in another source. Let's see, we're going to do NDI. We're going to use the existing, add that, and you see we're just basically copying that same source. And there's that. There's mine. There's the main layout. We're going to get rid of NDI from the main layout there. Yes, we want to remove it. Now our main layout is just plain black. It's got the KPI on there. It's got the Skype audio source and your local audio source. Come back here to shooter 2. We want to add another source, and again we're going to do the main layout, and we're going to hit OK. And there's the KPI. There's the audio sources, and now we're ready to go. So when I'm shooting, there's PSO craps. There's my table. When shooter 2 is up for his turn, there you can switch between those two scenes. Now, clicking to switch scenes, so you got to click down here, then you got to come back up here, go back to your role entry. That can get a little bit tedious. So to overcome that, we are going to create a couple of hotkeys. Now, there's the Elgato Stream Deck. You can also get a just a programmable USB keypad, 10 keypad, 15 keypad for probably around 40, 50, maybe $60 off Amazon. They are out there, they're available, and they do work. But if you're like me, you might have a keyboard that has special keys built in. My keyboard has a function lock button, which means all of my function keys, F1 through F12, have a secondary function to them. And so what I did is I came in here, I grabbed the Microsoft Mouse and Keyboard Center. Let's go in here. Where's it at? Come on up. And this is what my keyboard looks like. And there's a function lock key and all that good stuff. And so what I do is, and there's also some media keys up at the very top above the function keys that you can program. But I just came in here, and where are those settings? Restart. Anyways, this may or may not apply to you if you have a Microsoft keyboard or not. Oh, there we go. So this is what I did is I changed those. So like here, normally the F1 key is bound to help. And so I've reassigned that to be Alt and then number pad 1. And I do it this way so that I can also use the Alt and the number pad in case something else happens. But I still want it to be a one key deal. And I did this for F1 through F9. F9 on my keyboard happens to the secondary function as send email. And I've just reassigned a key combination of Alt numpad 9. And that sets me up with 9 scenes, 9 shooters total. I might need more. I don't know. I don't think I've seen LFC with more than 9, and that's okay. If we do, we'll figure it out from there. So anyways, I remapped those keys. Back in OBS, we go to Settings, and now we're going to go to Hotkeys, Filter. We've got our scenes. And so our main layout, we really don't care about. We should never have to actually go to the main layout. And if we do, we're probably not broadcasting. So PSO craps, I'm going to assign to my F1, which will show up as Alt numpad 1. Nope, that showed up as F1 because my function lock is on. Let's try it again. There you go. Alt numpad 1, Alt numpad 2 for shooter 2. And when I set this up first couple of times, I just did shooter 1 through 9. I created all the scenes all in advance, even though there was no sources, and that allows me to cycle through the shooters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many there are. It was pretty slick. So apply and hit OK. And now, without moving my mouse or clicking anything, I can switch between these scenes. There is a function in there, advanced scene switcher, I might play with. I have not done it myself yet. Seems like a lot of extra work for just simply cycling through a few scenes. We may touch on that later. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Let's go back to my, let's see, let me look at my outline that I set up. I'm not scripting this, but I did create me an outline of the things that we need to talk about. Oh, bounding boxes for video. So when Skype, the Skype sources are not active, or if Skype for some reason decides it wants to change resolution on you, the video source will move around, resize itself, and give you all kinds of grief. So what we need to do, we're going to right click on it, go to transform, reset transform. This puts us back to the original size of the Skype video. Now we're going to right click again on it, go to transform, and we're going to edit the transform. And here, what we're going to do, we can lock in a position of, let's say, 200 pixels in by 200 pixels down. Let's make that 180, 170, whatever, and lock that into place. And we can also lock in, what is this? We need to set bounds. So stretch or scale to inner bounds. We're going to center it. And then we need the bounding box size. Now, most of your video is going to be in a 16 by 9 format. So 640 by 360. Next one up is 720 by 480. Is one of those bounding box sizes. Next up for 720p is going to be 1280 by 720. I might have gotten some of these numbers mixed up. We talk about that later in a later video of this tutorial. So let's say that we just want to keep it simple and go 1280 by 720 because we're going to have other things on the screen. So we'll hit close, and there it is. And we can still move this around. It's by no means locked right now. But if that video source goes away, it will not resize. If Skype decides to send a different resolution, it will not resize itself. And so it will always be 1280 by 720 or whatever that number was. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So there we go. So that is the basics of using Skype with OBS for the live fantasy craps. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please like and subscribe, leave some comments if you have any comments on the video, and we will see you back here for part 4. In part 4, we are going to go into some advanced layout, advanced scene selection, and doing some of the fancy things that just up the production quality a little bit and will enable us to put on a good show. Until then, I hope the dice are kind, and we'll see you at Live Fantasy Craps.